Yeah. Hey. All right. Hey. Yeah, I mean.
So we about to take off.
Hey. Please do remain calm. About to run the game, spitting with a little bit of soul, no times.
Welcome to the Please Remain Calm podcast. I'm Ben Gonzalez.
And I am Daniel Gonzalez.
And we are here with our guest, a fellow Mac guy again. The second episode that we have had a Mac guy, Jeffrey Molina. Say what's up, man.
How's it going?
Hey, before we get started here, real quick, thank you guys all for listening to the podcast. As always, the opinions expressed here are our own opinions. They do not reflect the opinions of the Los Angeles City Fire Department or the LA County Department of Health Services. Let's get that out of the way right away.
Thank you for that.
Also, guys, you are listening to the podcast. I know we got a lot of new subscribers. We've had a run of really great guests, and this will continue that run. But if you are listening to the podcast for the first time, or if you've been listening for a while, thank you all so much for listening. Please pick up your phone right now, hit the like button for the episode, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, rate the podcast if you can, give us a 5-star rating. As always, I ask you guys this every episode now, but it really helps us. We're trying to grow the podcast, and it is growing with your word of mouth. But doing those things always helps us with placement with all of the platforms that we publish a podcast on. So we'd really appreciate it if you went and did that for us right now.
Yes, because we're trying to blow this thing up so we can quit the day job where I work with Jeffrey.
So I can retire from the fire department and run out of stories.
Exactly. And yeah, a fellow Mac guy here for the second time.
And a medic.
Kind of new to the Mac, and that's why we kind of wound up having you on the show, because all Mac coordinators are medics or nurses or military corpsmen, and so we'll all kind of, when a guy is new, start getting to know him, shoot the shit a little. See if they have any stories, what kind of shit they were doing before, they got to the Mac. Because nobody becomes a paramedic and decides they're going to work at the Mac. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a story behind
there.
it.
There's a winding road that you took to get there. You know what I mean?
Tell me your tale.
Yeah, so when he told me his story that he had, I was like, all right, we could get you on the show. And I wouldn't say, not everyone can be on the show. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though people can have stories, I work with a bunch of paramedics, not everyone's like a guest, a good talker. This guy's a talker. You know what I mean? He can shoot the shinola a little bit.
Not only that, but when you told me what the story was, like immediately hit home with me.
Right.
And I think it would with any paramedic or any EMT out there, or really anybody in this emergency field, where this could really happen to anybody. But his story has to do with a child, 14? Kid was 14
years old, yeah.
14-year-old. And right off the bat, man, when Ben told me that, it got me thinking, first of all, just about any time I hear about a story of a call with a kid, it gets me thinking right away, just that overall feeling of,
like any kid story.
Oh my God, dude. It's just like you feel that immediate heart sink. It doesn't even matter what the story is. You start the story and there's a kid involved. It's like, oh man, don't tell me this.
I've had many stories with kids, and every one of them just kind of very vivid in my head.
They're the worst.
Hundreds of calls, and you can still just remember these 5 very specific calls that I've had that are just like memories.
They're the worst, man.
Oh, the worst.
They are the worst. I've had and you hear about guys like going off duty. When they've had something significant happen, a lot of times the department will have like a psychologist on staff that they'll bring to the fire station or to the AMR station or something like that, and have a critical incident stress debriefing with the crew.
The only place they don't do that is the freaking Mac.
Yeah,
where we basically every single day have numerous PEDS cases, and I would say once a week one that's like, oh my God, this is terrible.
Yeah,
and we're constantly having to check if they suspect child abuse, have them call CPS, because everybody's a paramedic knows, but there's terrible parents, I guess. There's terrible things that happen to kids, and all those kids wind up being Mac transfers for the most part.
They never offer you guys any kind of counseling?
No,
or
dude,
anything
we
like
eat
that?
it, bro.
No shit.
We eat it.
See, that's terrible to me, dude. Across the board with like PD, fire, and actually our department seems like they're taking real steps to do something about that. They opened this like wellness, mental wellness center and stuff like that.
That was great.
But yeah, man, that the calls with kids. If you asked me at the end of, if you asked me 10 years ago, now at the end of my career, what the worst calls are, I'm going to tell you the worst calls are calls that deal with kids.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like this last like 2-3 years has really been a mental, like making sure that everybody's good mentally. But I feel like when I first started in EMS like 13 years ago, nothing.
Yeah, you better man up.
And some of these cases I had for kids earlier, like drownings and kids going like dying, like no one ever said anything to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
We had this training once where they had us listening to a 911 call of this double drowning. This woman found her kids both had fallen in the pool and had drowned. They had pulled them out, and so they're screaming in the background, and mom's screaming, and they're trying to give instructions for CPR. I'm listening to it, and I've had, at this point, I had, I don't know, 10 years, 11 years on the job. I had multiple kid calls. So I've been on that scene, pulling up, and mom's freaking out, doing CPR, and everybody, aunties are there, it's crying, and everyone's screaming, and oh my God, it's a kid, and everyone's looking at you to save the life. So for me, it was like, I don't understand what this training is supposed to be for. Like, you're just stressing me out right now, right?
Yeah,
like,
right.
I was having a perfectly fine day, and now all
Nice.
these stress hormones are just like flooding my body. Like, what's the point of that? I had to get up and walk out.
Well, who's this helping?
Yeah, and
Who's this helping?
I brought it up to the chief too, the battalion chief that did it. I go, sir, I'm not really understanding what the point is. Is it supposed to be that we need to hurry up and get to calls? There's other ways you can do that without making me listen to this.
Yeah, without stressing me out.
Yeah, without stressing me
making me
out.
feel like I
already.
was already there and not helping at all.
Because that stress builds up over years, man.
Oh yeah, tons.
And the kid calls are the worst. I've had a couple bad ones. I'm going to tell 2 quick stories, and we'll get into your story real quick. Talking about kids, man, I had I'll tell you the one story that put me off duty for a month. I was actually on the engine that day, engine 57, and we got a call for a fall, but it was like a 2-year-old fall. And so we get there, and as we're going, we get a message that pops up, CPR in progress. And so we're like, what the hell, And so we get there, and as we pull up, I jump out. I'm the medic on the assessment engine. I jump off the engine, and this guy is frantic. And usually that's a sign when you pull up and there's somebody waving in the middle of the street, you can see in their eyes how frantic they are,
Right.
And when it's a kid call and you see somebody frantic like that, it's like your adrenaline pumps up too, because you're like, oh shit, this is something. This person looks like they're freaking out.
Yep.
So I jump out, and the guy is freaking out. He's almost running like, come on. And so I run, man. I run into this apartment, and I could picture it like it's a photograph, like it's a movie right now, dude. I walk in, and there's like a wall right here, right, little hallway, and then when you turn right, it opens up into the living room. And as I'm walking in, there's 2 little kids crying, bawling in the corner right here, and I can hear mom screaming. And I turn the corner, and mom is straddling her. It was like a 3-year-old, and doing CPR, and this kid looked like it had exploded. I mean, really, it's what it looked like, blood everywhere, and I mean, just mangled. And what had happened was the kid had tried to climb on top of the TV to grab something off of the TV, and it was a big, huge tube television on a stand.
Yeah.
And so when he did that, shoom, the thing fell back, squished him like a bug.
Oh.
So, and at the time, my kids were, I think Max was 3 or 4, right around the same age, and was a Latino kid. You know what I mean? South Central LA, and we come in, and I'm on the engine. I know the rescue's coming. And one of the bad things with kids that make them such shitty calls to go on is that there's not a whole hell of a lot that we can do for kids.
Right.
Yeah. It's very true.
Especially in LA County. I know you worked out, in the boondocks and out there in Blythe. And so a lot of times when you have longer transport times to hospitals or to trauma centers or something like that, or if you're getting a helicopter coming out, you'll have a much
expanded scope.
A much bigger scope of practice, a lot more medications. You can give a lot more things that you can do.
Yeah.
Being in LA County, we're so close to the hospitals, we're really restricted. I mean, we were the first to start paramedicine in LA County, and we are so far behind the rest of the country as far as what we can do in our scope of practice.
But again, we have 90 hospitals.
Correct.
There's no other counties set up that way. Yeah,
right,
so
right.
That's how it is. Yeah.
So I hear the rescue coming. I know there's nothing. We got to get this kid to a trauma center.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's another thing with traumas like that.
Diesel, that's all you can.
Yeah,
get.
you got to get him to. You got to get him to trauma. Now, if a kid's in traumatic full arrest, you take him to the closest, which is what we wound up doing. But scoop him up, and I ran him out, and we got him on the gurney as rescue had pulled up. They pulled the gurney out, put him on the gurney, and we're doing CPR, and just watch this kid. I watched him die. I mean, he was agonal when we started. You know, he had a bunch of crush injuries, and it's heartbreaking, man. You know, you get back to the station, you try to debrief, and you know that was one of the times they had called the psychologist over to talk to the whole crew, and I had told him what was, you know, how I was feeling about the whole thing. They put me and a couple other people off. But calls like that never, ever, ever leave. I mean, even preparing for this podcast, you know, and Ben had told me your story, and I'm trying to think of what we're going to talk about during the podcast and stuff like that. I always try to kind of have a game plan. And I thought, I'm going to tell that story about that. And immediately I could feel it.
Oh, yeah. They're like pictures in your head.
Yeah.
Pictures in my head, man. Yeah. Snapshots, exactly like I said, you know.
Yeah.
But the incident that you're here to talk about deals with a drowning, and we'll get into it. About, I don't want to give any specifics. I had a call in the past. I won't say what district it was in or anything like that. And it was a shortness of breath, 14-year-old shortness of breath, and we get there. I'm on the rescue. We show up, and same thing. Get to the front door. Mom is frantic. They're in the back. They're in the back. Can you maybe pull around? And I'm like, okay, where are they? Right? Pull around to the alley and pull around to the alley. Ma'am, where are they? They're in the garage. Can I get to the garage through? Because I've got the gurney and everything with me. Can I get to the garage through here? Yes, let's go. So we go, get to the garage, and Dad has his kid laying across the back seat of the car. Pull him out, put him on the gurney, and he's blue. And he's agonal, gasping, agonal respirations. What happened? I don't know. He was fine. He was okay. We're at dinner. He had dinner, went to his room, said he wasn't feeling well, and he just deteriorated. We started to get him in to go to the hospital, and he just collapsed, and he's stopping breathing. So I'm looking at him. We get him on the gurney. We're hustling him out. Now, I've talked in this podcast in the past about how it's beautiful when things all go right.
Right.
Things fall into place and magical things happen. You save lives. There are definitely, man, in 18 years, and this isn't an isolated incident, but there are definitely plenty of times in 18 years as a medic that everything's gone wrong. You know, just everything you try doesn't work. You can't get the IV.
You're missing something.
You can't get you can't get the tube. The prick the prick you're relieving didn't restock this.
Yeah.
And it's your first call and you didn't get a chance. You know what I mean?
Dropping medication, breaks on the ground. You got to get another one. It's like,
there are times when you're just like, what the fuck is going on, man?
The perfect shitstorm.
Yeah.
And this call, I won't say it was that, because we did do the best we could for this kid, especially not knowing what was going on. And really the parents, they were frantic. You know, obviously I would be too with my child. We're kind of limited to what the information that we were getting, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And no trauma, no nothing. You know what I mean? Then the guy that was driving the rescue for us was from a different station, so he took kind of a wonky route to get to the hospital. We had to go to an EDAP, right, because it's a kid, and it's only specific hospitals or emergency rooms designated for pediatrics.
Right.
And the medic I was working with wasn't the best medic, you know, and so he's getting fumbled on the phone. I'm trying to get an IV. I'm also trying to make sure the kid's getting bagged properly, that we had the OP airway was in there properly. Yeah. I'm looking to intubate. I'm kind of doing all this stuff on my own in the back, and then looking, what the hell is taking so long? Yeah. You know,
and it's two of the worst things out the bat that you're saying is the frantic level of everyone, which is just hard to work in that environment, period. You have to stay cool no matter what, but you also have to try to calm people down to get information, and then not knowing what it is, because now you have to be detective medic and try to go through your whole differential diagnosis on a kid while everyone's freaking out. And
that's hard enough when you're doing it with like an adult that has a disease process, where your questions actually have answers and you can put two and two together. Add all those things together and not knowing, just like you said, man, it is a perfect storm for just everything to be fucked up. That's kind of what happened. And it was a terrible outcome. After the fact, come to find out that the kid was on the swim team, had swim practice, had an event happen at swim practice that afternoon, about 6 hours prior to when we ran into him.
Secondary drowning.
Secondary drowning, man.
Mm-hmm.
And or dry drowning, you might hear it be called. Essentially, you have a near drowning, or you have an event where you gulped in too much water, or maybe even aspirated a little bit of water and it gets into your lungs, and it could be salt water, it could be chlorinated water from a pool, which this happened to be, or lake water or something like that, right? But that water winds up getting into the lung tissue, and it swells up the lung tissue. So there winds up actually being very little water actually in the lungs.
Oh yeah.
But the tissue in there swells up so much that those alveoli can't inflate, and you're unable to have gas exchange.
So I mean, I taught swim lessons for years, and part of the training is that you have to go through, and they make you understand, like, if you have kids under a certain age, you only put their face underwater 2 to 3 times an entire lesson, because eventually then you start running the risk of dry drowning.
Sure, yeah.
And it happens. I mean,
yeah,
definitely is a huge risk, especially when they start getting to younger kids. Like 13, 14, you do have to have a pretty traumatic, like almost near drowning.
And that's what it sounds like happened earlier, and then he recovers and goes, I'm okay, goes home, and then this happens later on. Yeah. But yeah, he told me the story, and I automatically go, oh shit, man, that's kind of like what we had happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's something to make sure, since we're talking about it as a parent, it's something you always got to look out for when you got your kids. If you have a pool, or if you guys are going camping in the lake, or you're at the beach, or anything
always
like that.
Someone watching.
Always got to be aware of that. And if your kid has an event like that, and they tell you they're coughing, or they start to show any signs of a secondary drowning, like extreme fatigue, change in their mood, chest pain, shortness of breath, stuff like that, take them to the doctor.
Things that don't sound like kids should be having.
Exactly. Take them to the emergency room.
Yeah.
Or call right now. Don't wait, because it's something that I never really even knew about or would have thought about until I had this incident and learned about it.
Oh yeah, happens. And, it happens all the time.
It happens all the time. Yeah,
that's how you gain your toolbox and your Rolodex of problems, I guess.
So let's get into what happened with you. Now, you said you have been teaching swim for a long time. You're a swimmer.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have a water polo pass. I played water polo for 11 plus years. Just did swim in school, in high school. And after I got out of high school, I started coaching for about 5 years. So
coaching water polo?
Yeah, coaching water polo. Coaching water polo is like having a second full-time job. It is a 45, 60-hour plus week. And when I started getting into EMS, I was like, I can't do both.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to completely leave water polo. So what I did is I started getting into reffing. So I ref water polo, which is pretty much you get to make your own schedule. Like, hey, I can work this weekend. I can't work this weekend. Like, and it's still nice.
Are the refs swimming around in the pool too?
No.
Okay.
One of the most common questions. No. There's actually 2 refs. You're on either side of the pool. And we're standing outside, and we walk, and we're standing above the kids, making sure that we can see everything.
Got it.
So I had a tournament. I was probably my third year reffing, I believe. And I had a tournament, and it was going to be a long day. They're like, hey, we're super short refs. We need you to go to, usually you just stay at one pool, and you just do a bunch of games at one pool.
Sure.
They're like, we need you to go to 2 pools today. You're going to do 6 games in the morning, and then you're going to do 8 games in the afternoon. And I was like, that's a lot of games.
So this is like club water polo?
It's high school water polo. High school water polo.
All right.
How long is a water polo match? Is it a match?
1 hour, yeah. 1 hour is what you can just give each match.
Okay.
They usually go a little bit shorter for like JV is going to be about 50 minutes, and then like JV girls are going to be a little bit shorter. So, but you can just say about an hour for each match. Like
now, and forgive me because I don't really know a lot about water polo. If you're playing water polo, like how many swimmers are on a team in the pool swimming at any given time, and how long are they typically swimming in there?
So the longest you're going to look at a quarter being about 8 minutes.
Okay.
And that's going to be like your varsity boys level.
All right.
And then JV boys are 7 minutes, but each game, it's only 8 minutes because you're constantly swimming. You're constantly,
you're
egg beating. Like it's a very high intense activity. So they only give you a short amount of time.
Right.
Each shot clock is 30 seconds. And then, so there's 3 or 6 players, 1 goalie.
Okay.
And then you set up, the setup is just like basketball. You have a set and you have your perimeter players all set up exactly like a basketball game.
Okay.
So, Shaq there's always the biggest guys right in the middle of the goal.
Yeah.
And then you got your drivers on the sides.
He's just standing on the bottom.
So the guy in the middle is like kind of like the point guard sort of?
Exactly.
Right.
And they actually call it point.
Okay.
So it actually has the same name. You have a point man, you have your wing man, and then you have your set.
All right.
So it's the exact same thing as basketball. A little bit like soccer where you're going back and forth. as far as play.
How often do you like sub out players though? Is it
Every goal.
every goal?
Every
Okay.
goal.
Every
So
player comes out.
A smart coach will make sure that he is moving players, because depending on how many the player's doing, you know, like if you have one player that's kicking ass and, you know, scoring a lot of goals, that guy's
not
swimming a
pulling,
lot
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
He's aggravating, he's working his ass off. A smart coach will get that guy in and out, you know, like, hey, take a 2-minute rest, go back in. And that's what you train for, you know. We train to take a 1-minute rest, you go back in after the next goal.
Yeah.
So
And for the most part, there's like a goal every couple of minutes.
yeah. When you're in the higher level games, you're gonna get a goal at least once every 1 or 2 minutes. Lower level, sometimes like the level
There
of
you go,
play is
man.
not as
Yeah.
high, so no one's scoring goals. So you got kids that are swimming back and forth for 4 or 5
more
minutes.
and more tired.
Yeah.
Scores, ah.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
you see it. Sometimes you're just like, and you can do a lifetime like substitution, but it takes a lot of time, and you're gonna end up getting a goal scored on you. So a lot of times coaches won't do that.
Right.
Oh, they can
okay.
sub while the
Play is
ball
going on. Yeah,
okay.
that's a
But then
lifetime
that sets up a
substitution.
disadvantage.
Exactly,
Got it,
because you're
yeah.
still playing.
Yeah.
Right.
And so usually a lot of times like a good coach will make sure that he's substituting his good players in and making sure that we're getting that rotation. So no one's getting too tired, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
How long's the break after the goal?
Depends. It depends on substitutions, depends on if we have something going on. Usually I would say about 20, 30 seconds.
That's pretty fast, though.
Yeah. Oh, it's super
Yeah.
quick. We have to keep the games going because if a JV game, if we're on 7 minutes,
Mhm.
like the games are timed out that we have literally 4 minutes in between each game.
Oh, really?
To get the next team, like we have to do captains, we have to do setup, we have to do all of, make sure everybody is happy with their sides, and we have to check uniforms, like make sure you have the right caps on, like all this stuff in like 4 minutes.
That's a
Wow.
fast turnover, though.
Oh, it's a
dude,
huge
right?
fast turn. Yeah, that's how we get these games where we get like, 20, 30 games at one pool in a day. That's a lot of games.
Yeah. It's a lot to squeeze in.
Yeah,
It's a lot to squeeze
What
in.
kind of medical staff do they typically have at these things?
None.
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 No shit.
None.
Wow.
We don't have lifeguards most of the time. Actually, we don't never have lifeguards. I know one
I
pool.
mean, I guess
I know
because you
one
figure
pool.
everybody's still swimmer,
Yeah.
a strong swimmer, but
And well, the coaches are
crazy.
required to have like first aid, like
Yeah,
But
yeah, of
I
course.
mean,
Right.
Joe Schmo water polo player, just go get your CPR. It's just like anybody other lay person that's gonna have it,
So the other refs too aren't really medics. Are you kind of like
No.
you're a rarity?
I'm the only one.
Are they EMTs even?
No.
no,
No,
nothing.
nobody.
Yeah, maybe
Nothing.
CPR card here and there. Maybe a
within
BLS
my
card.
little group of refs, there's a couple people that went to would be police officers, but other than that, I mean, I'm the only one that's medical at all. There's no nurses, no nothing.
And how many matches are these teams playing in a day? How many tournaments?
On a tournament weekend, you're looking at about 2 games Friday, probably about 4 games on Saturday, 4 to 5 games on Saturday.
With
man.
the same team,
Yeah, from the same team.
man.
So
So take us to this day.
That's work.
yeah, so I mean, I go to my first half when I'm in Claremont High School,
Okay.
and I had 6 games in the morning. So I knocked those out. I started at 8 a.m. I got done around noonish, 1 o'clock. I had about an hour break, and I had to be at Bonita High School over in Laverne. So I'm just like mentally preparing myself to finish off these last like 7 games. It's going to be a long day. So the tournament's already going on for the games in front of me, and I'm checking the teams for the next game. And we get the game going, and I'm like, okay, here we go. Quarter one of 7 games. I'm ready to go. Let's blow the whistle. We go play the first quarter. Fine. Nothing crazy happening, just typical JV game. Kind of slow play, nothing crazy. This is like, and it's also like they break the pools up as like, okay, the winner bracket, like the top 5 teams are going to go to this pool.
Yeah.
And like the best place at this team at the pool I'm at can be like, I think like 12th place.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's like,
Like
even if you win
Not
all
the
your
best.
games.
scrub.
Yeah.
Exactly.
pool.
So we go through the first quarter perfectly fine, and then the second quarter, so the teams are on one side, and then the ref is on that one side, and then there's another ref on the other side where
Okay.
the spectators are.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm that ref on the second quarter.
Okay.
So blow the whistle, start playing. We're about a minute in. Someone scores a goal. Okay, another minute goes by. Another goal scored. The coach for one team calls a substitution. I'm like, okay, give them the substitution sign, tell them to go. And like I said, quick turnaround. We have 20, 30 seconds with your substitution to make sure that this happens.
Kid hops out the water, other kid hops in.
Yeah, exactly. They're doing it at the same time.
Yeah.
We got kids hopping in. We got kids. And you got to make sure you count.
And you're
like,
keeping track of all of them?
Yeah,
You
we're
have like a number on their cap
yeah,
or
we're,
something?
well, yeah, we're just making sure we're keeping track of the numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a goalie. Go.
Yeah.
So we have one kid that is jumping out, and the pools are about, I don't know, probably about 3 feet, 4 feet, about 3 feet high. So they're a little bit hard to get out of. I don't know if you guys have all been to like a public pool where the gutters are
hard
high.
to pull yourself
yeah, exactly.
up,
So you got to pull yourself up.
Yeah.
And typically JV kids, I mean, they're maybe their first, second year playing. They're not the most athletic yet.
Sure.
So it's hard for them to get out of the pool. So you're kind of used to seeing it. Well, I'm looking at this one kid, and he's like trying to get out of the pool, and he's kind of like holding himself like up on the gutter, half in, half out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I technically can't blow the whistle to start the quarter until his whole body is out of the pool.
Sure.
So I'm waiting, and I look over, and I'm like, okay, like hurry up, like.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I see 2 kids trying to help him out, which is pretty common. You know, somebody will pull on his arms to help him get up.
Right.
And then I'm still waiting, and then I see 3 kids helping, and I'm like, what's up with this kid? And then I look at my partner, and I'm like, I give him like a signal, like, hey, go check that kid out. Like, what's going on? Like, hurry up. Like, so my partner takes about 5 steps, look at the kid, and just eyeballs go huge. And I'm like, oh man, what's going on?
There's that same as like pulling up to a frantic person.
So his
we
eyeballs just go wide as I was like, oh man. So I'm walking over, and they're still trying to get him out of the pool.
Yeah.
And
is he a smaller kid? Is he hefty?
No, he's not very hefty. He's a smaller kid. I mean, he's probably about, I don't know, 5'8", maybe like $140. So he's a small kid.
But he's out at this point.
He's not out of the pool yet.
No. I mean, like unconscious, or is he just
I don't know.
lethargic?
I'm walking around the pool. I'm still coming around.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I kind of see these 3 kids trying to pull him up, and I thought he was having a seizure at first because I kind of saw him, I don't know, doing a little shake. So I was like, okay, maybe he's having a seizure. Yeah. Whatever. We'll get him out of the pool. So we finally get him out of the pool. We kind of have to, he like slumps forward, and I flip him over. He is blue in the face, not breathing.
Oh crap.
And I'm like, wait a second. So then I check for a pulse. No pulse whatsoever.
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
how long had you been a medic at this point?
I had been a medic probably about 2 years at this point.
Okay.
All right. So you've had a few arrests.
Yeah. I mean, I worked in Pomona for like 10 plus years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've had my share of full arrests. It's not like it's like I've never seen one before, you know?
Right.
But this is a different experience. I was in ref mode. Like, I did not have my medic hat on. I had my referee hat on. And I'm like, okay, this is happening.
You by surprise.
Yeah. I'm like, this is happening. Like, okay, Jeffrey, like switch moods.
Get to work.
Get to work. And all of a sudden, I'm like, call 911. I'm doing CPR. And then the coach that's in charge of the pool, they have one coach that's like the pool manager.
Yeah.
He just looks at me. He's like, what do you need? I was like, I need you to get these people back. Because I got his whole team standing over me. I got the other ref looking. I got parents walking over. And he's like, what do you need? I was like, do you have an AED? Yes. Go get it and get all these people away from me.
Let's stop there for a second, because that's like literally the perfect order that you're supposed to do shit in. You know what I'm saying? Number 1, call 911. Don't start doing shit and then say, hey, did anybody call 911? Make somebody call first.
Well, and they tell you too, just when you go to basic CPR and first aid class, it's one of the things they
activate the
teach you.
911 emergency system.
Activate the system. But it's also important, and they tell you this, and I would recommend it too. Somebody call 911, come back, let me know that you did it.
Yes.
Because you'll say that, somebody call 911, and everybody will assume somebody's doing it.
Yeah.
And won't do it. You know what I mean?
So
nobody did.
make sure. You can even yell out a couple times, hey, has anybody called 911? You know what I mean?
So, I mean, I'm switching back into medic mode here, and I start CPR on this kid.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, now I'm just everything in my head. Like, I don't have my stuff. I'm not with my partner. I don't have other medics coming. Like, I don't know how long I'm going to be here for. So I'm doing CPR on this kid, and all of a sudden I have a mom come up. No offense to her, and thank God I'm a physical therapist. I can help. And I was like,
no.
Okay.
Massage my shoulders. They're hurting.
And I was just like, oh, man, like, okay, you know what?
Do you know CPR?
I don't, Well, she's like, I have my CPR card. I'm a physical therapist.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I got to give this lady something to do. She's standing right over me. And I was like, and I don't have a bag. So I'm like, do you want to breathe for him?
Yeah.
I was like, because I certainly don't. I mean, no offense. I mean,
and there's nothing wrong with compression only.
That was my thought process. I was like, I don't have a bag. I'm going to do hands only CPR right now because I don't have any of my equipment.
Especially these days.
Yeah, especially these days. I mean, he's a kid. I know he's 14 years old, but I don't care who it is. So I'm like, I want to go with my family. I don't want to have to take this call home with me.
Sure.
So I'm doing CPR. I'm like, if you're willing, can you please breathe for him? She said, I'll do it. And I was like, okay. So she hops on it. I was like, I'm just going to do CPR. I'll tell you when to breathe. So I'm just doing CPR, and then all of a sudden the pool manager comes over with the AD. He's like, I just called 911. They're on their way. I was like, perfect.
Perfect.
So the kid's slopping wet.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
The wrist. Yeah. Can you tell?
So then I have somebody else come up to me. I'm a firefighter, and this guy's got a beard down to his chest, and I'm like, I'm looking at him. I'm like,
yeah,
firefighter. Okay. You know what?
Blythe.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. I don't have anything to do for you, and I'm not going to switch out because I don't know your quality of CPR, and I'm just not trusting that you're a firefighter.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But so I was like, just do me a favor, get the AED undone and hook it up. So he does that, and he's got the pads, and this kid's like just got out of the pool. He's sopping wet, and I was like, we need a towel to just
And you're on
like
the deck,
quickly
right?
dry him off. Like, I know the whole puddle thing, like it's not really an issue, but I was like, we need to just like quickly dry him off. I don't need to like get him completely dry. And the guy's like, no. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
So he's like here, and slaps the pad on him.
Wet.
Just completely, the pad just completely
guy.
slops off of him. And I look at him, I'm like, can you get a towel now, please?
Yeah.
So we dry him off. I'm still doing CPR. We get the pads on this kid, and it starts going through its cycle, analyzing.
Sure.
Shock advised.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was like,
it one
You
where
said
it
you never
showed
felt
you?
anything, right?
no, I never
Yeah.
felt anything.
Was
Shock
it-
advised.
Was it one of the AEDs where it actually showed you the
No.
rhythm? No, it
No,
just
it's
it just analyzed
just
it.
told
you, yeah.
Okay.
So it goes through and it's shock advised. And I was like, okay.
Let's
Like,
go.
I'm like looking around. I'm like, I'm not touching this kid, right?
Yeah. You're both passed. You're
Yeah.
both knocked out.
And I
now.
was like, clear. I look at my physical therapist. I look at my bearded firefighter. I say, you guys
Yeah.
clear? He's like, yes. I was like, okay. Physical therapist, push the button. Shocks him.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, his arm just shoots up. And I'm like, okay. Check for a pulse. I'm like, I'm not really feeling anything. I'm going to keep doing CPR.
Sure.
And then even the AED was like, continue CPR. So continue CPR. All of a sudden, he starts grunting, like, giving me like, ugh. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to keep doing CPR on someone who's grunting. Like,
Yeah.
let's
Analyzing.
let's check for a pulse.
Yeah.
And then it actually advises to shock again.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Come to find out, I did find out later from the medics he was in VTAC. So,
Okay.
but yeah, so that's why it kept advising us to shock. I was like, okay, this makes more sense. So we shock him one more time, and then he kind of like starts breathing, and has a pulse, like a palpable pulse. And I'm like, okay, fire's still not on scene, PD still not on scene. This is like probably like 4 minutes into it.
Yeah.
So I was like, the pool manager's like, what's going on? I was like, do you have a backboard here? He's like, yeah. So I'm like, go get your backboard, because I know all the pools have backboards.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
So he's going to get it. All of a sudden, the kid just goes limp again. And it's about 3 minutes in, probably about 4 minutes in. And at this point, I was like, okay, I'm going to continue CPR. You continue breathing. And then at that moment, though, that was when the kid's family members realized it was their kid.
Whoa.
Yeah.
The whole time they
didn't know what was going on.
didn't know what kid it was.
They didn't know whose kid it was. They were sitting in the stands like,
Man, that's wild, dude.
Yeah.
this is like 4 minutes into this, and they
Oh
don't
my
realize
God.
whose kid this is.
Holy crap.
So
a
it's the
nightmare.
dad and it's the mom. Or no, the dad and the sister.
So
Sorry.
you had not dealt with any freaked out family at this
No.
point, and now you have this.
Yeah.
So
coming in.
I'm standing there, and all of a sudden I have this, I don't know, she was probably like 19, 20 years old at the time, screaming in my ear. And everybody's trying to hold her back. And she's screaming, that's my fucking brother. Get out of here. No. And she's laying on the floor holding his hand while I'm doing CPR. And I'm just kind of looking at her like, okay, I don't have time for this. Like, you can hold his hand. You're not bothering me.
Man,
Yeah.
Hold
You're
his
talking
hand.
about things going wrong on a call,
Yeah.
dude,
Yeah.
right? The
Well,
obstacles,
then the best part about it, and then the dad. So they're trying to keep the dad back, and the dad's like this, like 6'2", like he's got to be like 240. He's a big dude,
Yeah.
and the coach is trying to hold him back. Like he's like, "That's my son," and he checks the coach, like almost knocks him over, and I'm like,
oh man.
and he's like, "Calm down, like they're doing what they're supposed to be doing,"
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" And I have. Like I said, I'm used to showing up. I got all my people.
Yeah.
I got
Yeah,
my partner.
right, that's
I got
insane.
some medics.
And your equipment.
I
Yeah.
got my equipment. I
Yeah.
got
You're
my
all
people.
alone
and
in a
I'm
Foot Locker
alone.
shirt.
Yeah. So I'm just like, oh man, could anything else go wrong right now? Just like, please let this be
Yeah.
over. Please let this be over. Like, where is fire?
And it seems like forever.
It seems like forever.
Yeah.
It literally was like 6 minute response time.
And then goes
Yeah,
back.
and you're in Laverne?
yeah.
Yeah, it shouldn't take that long.
Yeah.
What are they doing?
Well, I guess that's why they gave us that training, right? Hurry up! Don't take that extra bite of food.
Yeah.
Get your ass on the rig and hustle up.
Yeah. So then, like, all of a sudden, I have PD shows up. They're there, and this I'm doing CPR, and I'm, you know, kind of, I have the kid's leg in between my legs and his arm in between my legs, and I'm doing CPR, and this cop comes up and he is straddling the kid with his freaking dick right in my face. And I was like, dude, he's like, what's going on? And I was like,
What's going on?
I was like,
Well, Officer Johnson.
yeah. I was like, I'm a paramedic. I got this. He's like, oh, okay. So then he finally decides to get his crotch out of my face, which is nice. So yeah, I mean, sister's sitting there crying. I'm doing CPR. All this is happening. And then finally fire shows up and same deal. Straddling the kid, crotch right in my face as I'm doing CPR. I know the medic.
Yeah, he's probably doing it on purpose. That's why, yeah.
He's like, what's going on? He's checking for a pulse, and he's like, I don't feel one either. Keep doing CPR.
Yeah.
So then finally, after about 20 more seconds, they had their firefighter jump in and loaded him up on our backboard already.
Yeah.
And actually, they put him on the monitor, and he had a pulse. He had a
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
a rhythm. So I was like, okay.
Where's the dad now?
The
doing
dad
this?
is talking to PD.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was just a crazy call. Like, it was just a crazy call. I called a call. I'm not even on.
Not even on
Yeah,
the call.
but
So I'm
it
saying,
is, though.
it's halftime.
Yeah,
Or no, it's
exactly.
the second quarter.
It was the second quarter of my reffing game.
Were you
And,
able to follow up at all and find out?
I did a little bit. Actually, the mom emailed me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, but it was, I don't know, it was interesting because I had told my ref assigner, I was like, hey, like, had a little bit of a situation at the pool. Like, just want to give you a heads up. Well, actually, they did end up canceling all the rest of the games.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because the two teams that were playing were going to play, whoever played their game, one was going to play the winner of the next game, and they kind of like round robin it.
Yeah.
We're not going to know who finished in 10th place.
Yeah. I never figured out who won 10th place. Yeah. But no, so there was like 5 teams on the pool deck, and they were literally all there.
Yeah.
I mean,
right behind you.
Each team is about 15 kids deep, and they were every single one of those teams saw me doing CPR on this kid.
Yeah.
So all the coaches got together, like, hey, like, there's a little bit of a traumatic
Ass crack
issue.
showing.
Yeah, maybe we should probably give the kids the rest of the day off. Like,
let them talk about it.
Yeah. So they ended up canceling the rest of the games, but it was just weird. Like I said, I've gone to many full arrest, and you know, when you show up with your team and you know the people that are going to do what they're going to do, you show up and it just moves like, you know, there's a rhythm to it. You know,
everyone knows their part to play.
We're going to switch off CPR. You're going to bag. The medics are doing their thing. You know, it's like a symphony. You know exactly what to do.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't have any of that, and it was weird. It was crazy. Like, I was just so out of my element. And like, when I used to go, I remember towards the end of me working in Pomona, when I was just an EMT, like, I would show up to full arrest, like, okay, like, I know who's on the squad today. I know that we're going to get through this. Yeah. And honestly, my adrenaline, you know, you kind of have to, like, you get used to it a little bit.
Sure,
the rhythm of it.
Right.
Like this one, at the end of it, I was exhausted. I was like that just happened. Like, it was crazy. Like,
well, it's scary. I mean, the main thing, not having your gear. You know what I mean? Like, it sucks having the knowledge and not being able to do anything that you know you have the ability to do.
Yeah. Then bystanders arguing with you, and then the family jumping in 4 minutes into it.
Yeah.
Well,
that's wild because you didn't even think about that until then. Oh, crap.
I got a dad about to push somebody into me. I'm like, oh, God.
And listen, man, that is something as a medic that you have to deal with all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Especially things like this, sudden deaths. You know, I've talked about it in the past, how sudden deaths are like the worst thing to witness because the sorrow and the like sadness and the surprise and shock in the family and people's eyes.
Yeah.
That's some of like the most raw, crazy emotion that you experience as a human. Right. Mm-hmm. And when you do this job long enough, when you work in areas long enough where you have shootings and stabbings and stuff like that, you see that a lot. You know what I mean? And for me, when I was put off duty and actually like went to therapy and like started talking to somebody about all the things that I was seeing and thinking, you know, that was just like, that was one of those things that, you know, that came out. It's like those things that just stick in your head all the time, you know?
Yeah.
But family members freaking out like that, man, it's something you have to deal with because, and I've had that in the past too, man, where I'm trying to, God, what was it? It was a full arrest, and I gave epi or something, and we got a little blurb on the monitor, right? And it was like, it was an old lady, but her son or her grandson that took care of her was this gangbanger, right? And he's behind us, and he's, come on, man, come on, grandma. He's all worked up, and we're trying to work on her and stuff. And I'm telling him, hey, man, we're doing our best. Could you back up a little bit, because he's right over his shoulder.
Yeah.
And then we get the epi, see the little blurb, but it's, no pulse. We keep going, give her some more of that, man. Give her some more of that. Start shoving me from behind.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, man, hey. And, a good captain or a good crew will grab,
assist.
hey, back up, or PD will come, hey, back up. Don't be, what I mean?
Yeah, let them do their thing.
He's got a water polo coach.
Yeah, when you don't have anybody there, you don't have your gear, you know,
Yeah.
you don't have anyone to be able to bounce any ideas off of or anything.
Yeah. What's my plan of attack? Like, all right, I'm going to give one more. We're going to do one more round of CPR, and then we're going to go.
Yeah.
I didn't have none of that. I'm just like,
where are you going?
Sure, yeah.
Going what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's scary, man. It's
But
scary.
it's just like, it's funny because, like I said, you get used to it, and then that just like my adrenaline's rushing. I remember sitting in a chair after, and I'm just sitting there like, oh my gosh, I'm shaking. Like, I have an adrenaline rush right now. Like, I haven't. It's been kind of a long time. I haven't really like had this kind of feeling from going to calls. I feel like I was in training all over again. But and it's also the weird part about it is like, we show up, we run these full arrests, and we run these calls, and then we bounce out. Either we're taking the patient or we're leaving the patient there. We bounce out.
Yeah.
Like,
You stayed.
I had to stay. They took that kid, they loaded him up, and I'm staying, and I'm sitting there, and I got half the pool deck coming up to me, asking me questions, this and that. I had this lady come up to me, and she's like, me and my husband just took a CPR class, and it was like watching a video. You did so well.
Yeah.
It was really weird. Like
it was like a show.
Yeah.
For them.
Yeah. What's the John
Q&A?
What was it? The John Quinones show? What would you do? Or what
I
was like, it was just sitting there. I'm just like,
ABC.
that was like the worst episode of What Would You Do?
Oh my god.
How did it come around that the mom emailed you? Or got
So
in
I had
touch
told
with
my director, my refereeing director, like what had happened. So he was like, okay, like, and then I think a couple days later, it was probably about 2 days later, he hit me up like, hey, the mom wants your email. Is it okay if I give it to her? So she emailed. It's funny because every once in a while she'll still email me.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah. So like, I remember like right after it happened, she emailed me and kind of explained like he had was born with a heart murmur.
Oh, wow.
And he had grown out of it, and he had been cleared by his doctor to do water polo. Well, then apparently throughout the first half of the day, he was like having chest pain, shortness of breath, and he was kind of playing it off, like, hey, my doctor cleared me. Like everybody was playing it off.
Sure.
Come to find out, like
whatever it was,
whatever it was,
triggered whatever it
that's
triggered.
so great. Yeah.
That's so crazy, man.
So she had to kind of explain the situation, what was happening, and then like she emailed me like 6 months later during the holidays, like, just want to let you know you're still my angel. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, imagine, man.
I've never
being
had
a
so much
parent.
follow up with like a
Here's the other thing though, is like the mom knew this whole condition and that he was having chest pain and shit. Hey, maybe tell your husband, your daughter, like, hey,
Tell
chill
him to
out. You know
chill
what I
the
mean?
fuck
Hey,
out.
it's not his
Yeah.
fault. You know?
Well,
Remember?
and then when the other part about it is I'm still reffing. I mean, I still had another month and a half of the season left. I went to his school, like, I don't know, probably about a month later for a tournament.
Yeah.
I walk on the pool deck, and here comes Angel walking up to me.
Oh,
He's
no
like,
shit.
yeah.
With the
Amazing.
Ellen show.
Yeah. No, he comes walking up to me. He's like, do you know who I am? I'm like, Angel? He's like, yeah. And I just want to thank you for saving my life. Like,
Oh, man.
Wow.
That's awesome.
yeah, it was.
Oh.
It's just I've never had
What
so
an
much
amazing
follow-up.
feeling.
That is
Yeah.
fun.
So
Yeah.
it's like I've never had so much follow up in it, like with a call before. Like,
Yeah.
like personally, it was interesting. Like.
But that's important. It's important, I think, to have calls like that where you do follow up and you get to know the people that we had three firefighters from Georgia that had come by the fire station a few years back, and they were asking to buy T-shirts. And so, we're showing them the T-shirt locker and chatting and stuff. And, hey, we're firemen. We just got hired in Marietta, Georgia, and chatted. And they hung out for like 20 minutes, and we all chatted and stuff like that. They were really cool, young dudes. And that was it. They took off. They were on vacation, and it was their last night in LA. And that night, late at night, we got a call. The engine and 800 from 867 got a call for a traffic accident in our district. And I was on the rescue. We got the engine company attached us. And so we get there, we pull around, we get in the intersection, and it's a massive accident. And it's a fairly big intersection, but debris everywhere. And the captain comes walking up to me, and he goes, hey, it's the guys from earlier, the guys from Georgia. and a drunk driver had
Oh.
hit their car, and they spun around so much the centrifugal force man had
Just thrown him
basically
out.
yanked him out the rear window, and he died there on the street.
Jeez.
And the LA Fire Department went all out for this guy, you know, because he was a fireman. I mean, they escorted escorted him to the morgue, escorted him to the plane, did a whole thing at the airport for him and stuff like that. But an artist on that intersection did a portrait of him on this electrical box that's on the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Really beautiful portrait of him with his fire department's logo on the side, and just like a little tribute to him and stuff like that. So every year, the first year anniversary, I wrote this long post about because I run this our the station's Instagram page. I posted that, and we all went and put flowers on it, and I wrote this whole thing, basically the story of what happened. And every year, it's kind of become a tradition now. This is third or fourth year in a row that we've done it. On the anniversary, we'll go and take pictures, and I'll post it. And his mom, the other guys that were in the car, a bunch of guys from his department, a bunch of people in his family, comment every year, especially his mom. It's just why I still make sure that everyone does it every year.
Yeah, it means something.
It means a lot. And she, every year she tells me, you guys have no idea how much this means to us, that you're keeping his memory alive and that you're honoring him like that.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's important to remember that when you're going on calls too, for all you younger medics and firemen out there, firefighters, excuse me. It's important to remember that this might be your third cardiac arrest that day.
We say this a lot.
But that it might be the most important event of that person's life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They might have been in the worst patch they've ever been in at that moment when you found them and took them in and they started recovery and got better or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, you never know. Maybe you saved them from this heart attack, and it was a heart attack that made them decide to change their lifestyle and eat vegetables and exercise more and really just become a better person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You never know the effect that you have on people.
I remember being in EMT school, a little 18-year-old Jeffrey being in EMT school, and I remember the instructor and being like, listen, some people may only call 911 once or twice in their entire life.
Yep.
And you might be the person that shows up to that person. It may be just run of the mill for you, but it may be the worst day of their life.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, always treat it with respect.
Yeah, man.
know?
You have to, and
It's-
just remember that it's people that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And
You
even
get jaded. I mean, it can happen to anybody.
yeah, for
But
sure.
As I always tell people, you'll always get respectful Jeffrey. You may not always get happy bubbly Jeffrey, but you'll always get respectful Jeffrey.
That's all people can ask for.
Yeah.
Yeah, doing your best. So that's cool, man. You followed up. You knew what happened. The kid walked up to you. The mom still contacts
Yeah.
you. The sister, no apology.
Nothing.
The dad,
Sister and dad.
nothing. But the mom, salt of the earth.
Yeah, exactly.
We applaud that. So going back to water polo, because we were like noobs with that. We've heard
Most people
some
are.
things about it.
I'm surprised you guys didn't
and when
ask
you
about
guys
horses.
were talking about it, yeah, that was pretty wild when you were breaking down like exactly like how water polo works, like how like hardcore it is basically and competitive
It's-
the further you end. Because how far did you go with it when you were playing?
I did club for 10 years.
How old were you when you
then-
started?
I was 8 years old when I started.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
How do you
so,
get into
like,
water polo when you're 8, dude? 'Cause we
you know
didn't even
what? I
that
just
was a
happened.
thing. Yeah, I don't
it
remember.
was
Yeah.
just
Family
happened-
player, or you
No.
just no shit?
You know what? So when I first got into it, like there were like 9 or 10 big clubs in the area, and you basically only played for 9 or 10 of these clubs. And one of them just happened to be at the local high school that I was at.
Oh, nice.
The high school I went to, which is a mile and a half away from my house, they happened to start a water polo club. It's actually called CHOP, and it used to stand for Chino Hills Area Water Polo.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Well, it's just called CHOP now.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I played there for 11 years. I was on the Junior Olympic team with them.
Oh, wow.
Actually, Junior Olympics are going on this weekend.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, for water polo?
Yeah, this
Did
weekend.
they do it in
LA
County, or?
Yeah, it's in Southern California.
Oh.
Did you have
So-
to like go live at a training facility or something like that for that?
No.
No, because I've had a couple gymnastics guys that were on junior.
No, none of that. The sport's huge now. Southern California has
Oh yeah, I have
like,
a few
tons.
buddies whose kids play water polo. Yeah,
it's a
my buddy
big
Chip's
sport.
son plays.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he goes out to tournaments and stuff like that.
Oh
Utah.
yeah, it's huge now. It's huge.
Yeah.
We used to, and it didn't used to be so big. I mean, we used to have to do, we do 1 year in Southern California for Junior Olympics, and then we'd have to go to Florida for 1 year. So we have to go bounce back and forth. They do Junior Olympics every year.
Yeah.
So it's actually happening this weekend. And I mean, during the Olympics, water polo was the first sport added to the modern Olympics.
Really?
They don't realize it. After soccer, it's actually the #1 sport watched after soccer.
It's crazy.
Outside of the United States.
Outside of the U.S. Okay.
It's a crazy sport. It's crazy that they don't have a ref that's like underwater watching what's going on.
Like a camera or something.
There's no way.
See all the bullshit.
Because it's like kind of a dirty sport like that in certain ways, right?
I mean,
like there's guys pulling people down by their trunks with their toes and shit like that.
I mean,
right?
I've been playing long enough and I've seen enough that I can tell when someone's being just dirty.
Yeah.
Like you can tell. I mean, I can tell just by your hip position. And it's hard for a lot of people because people didn't grow up playing water polo.
Yeah.
Like you can't see what's happening. And when I'm reffing these freshmen and sophomores in high school, their parents are losing it on me. They are freaking out because their kid looks like they're drowning. I'm like, trust me, your kid's not drowning.
Yeah.
It may look like something's happening, but it's just part of the game. It's part of the play. If I see something that's egregious, I will go ahead and...
You're like, do you know who I am? Even if you didn't drown?
So it's that's what I was saying, right? He's the legend.
My next ref meeting was awesome. When they brought it up at my referee meeting, because we had to do trainings, and then I walk in, they're like, all right, everybody, we just want to take a minute. And I was like, oh, God.
There we go.
In front of all the refs in my area.
Heroes work here.
Don't forget to thank me for my service later. Thank you.
Were you getting recognized at future matches?
You know what? A couple people did. And it's funny because actually one of the guys I played club with for years was actually one of the coaches for one of the teams I was playing when that happened.
Oh, really?
So I still talk to him.
Okay.
Cool,
but
man.
yeah.
Water polo. So yeah, the most watched show after soccer. We watched sport after soccer around
Water
the
polo,
world.
huh?
Yeah.
No shit.
And so you're saying like players are kind of like
there's a professional league
flopping
in Europe.
As far as like pretending to try to get calls.
It happens.
And those parents are freaking out on you.
Yeah. And I mean, for the most part, if you're not comfortable in the pool and you're just trying to stay up and not drown, like it's gonna look like everything's bad.
Yeah.
Because you can get you're allowed to be pulled down, sort of, or you're just checked,
not
or
pulled
like
down, but you're allowed. You can hold them in a particular manner that doesn't, but it's gonna look like you're drowning them sometimes.
Yeah.
Because
that's why
if you're holding on to someone's shoulder and they like
basketball,
flop,
like
then it
fighting
looks
for
like they're
position in
drowning.
basketball, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
like, shoulders.
You
arms.
can put your hand on their shoulders. You know, a lot of times they'll hold their like hands on their shoulder, hand on their like ribs.
Yeah.
So you're holding them like that, and if a kid's trying to move, all of a sudden now they're underwater. I got mom screaming at me.
Sure,
She's drowning my kid. I'm like, okay, he's not drowning.
They said picks.
Yes, they do.
Okay. All right.
I am shocked that is the second most watched sport because literally,
Babe?
I mean, I'll pay more attention now that you explain it a little bit, but it seriously looks like fools just splashing around to me when I
throwing
watch
the ball,
on TV.
throwing the ball,
The
throwing the ball,
ball's
throwing the ball,
bouncing
throwing the
around, but
ball.
I literally all I see is
Yeah,
splashing.
or like a dude just waiting.
I'm like,
yeah.
dude, this splashy, man.
But
This
when
splashy.
he's saying all the shit that's going on underwater,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
They're
Oh, yeah.
nut checking, elbowing.
Well,
You're
just
grabbing
treading water,
serious.
period, is hard for that for
Yeah.
a long amount of time. But
Yeah,
then
with the
doing
whole
all that
like
other
physical
shit,
battle going on.
We have
yeah.
we used to have 3-hour practices. The first 2 hours was just conditioning, and then we'd do an hour of water polo training.
Yeah,
Crazy.
Man,
dude.
it's
2
nuts.
hours of conditioning. I would die.
Yeah.
It's nuts, man.
Practice, bro.
It's funny because I coach all these kids, and now I have like the kids that have now graduated, and now they're having kids and stuff. Like it makes me feel old. But they're hitting me up on Facebook, like, "Hey, like I'm trying to get back into swimming. Like, do you have any like recommendations for me?" And I'm like, "Remember how I used to make you swim for 2 hours every day?" I'm like, "Just swim for 2 hours every day."
Yeah.
I'm like, "What you're gonna do is you're gonna get in the pool and you're gonna swim for 20 minutes and be like, oh, I'm done." I'm like, "You gotta beat through that." I was like, because if you're not putting at least an hour and at least, so we measure swimming in yards. So you do 25 yards, and then so we call 100. Swim 100, which means 4 laps.
Yeah.
So if I say swim 1,000 yards,
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
you got to
About
swim
40,
at least.
yeah.
You got to swim at least 1,000 yards to even make any swimming conditioning worth it.
So crazy, man.
Man.
So crazy how many calories you burn too. Were you eating like a freaking maniac too?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh dude. We used to always laugh because like when I was in high school, we would go to like a local like breakfast burrito spot, and everybody would get 2 burritos. You'd eat 1 burrito on the way to school.
Yeah.
Because we'd have morning practice. We go get burritos. You eat 1 on the way to school, and then you eat the second one in first period.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
We were just going through
Do you still use your like high school water polo picture? Like, is there like your profile
Yeah,
picture?
it's proposed Tinder.
Yeah. It's funny because I don't know what it was, but the local photographer for my little local newspaper loved me. I was in the newspaper, like on the front page of the little sports high school section, probably 8 times.
Oh, no
and
shit.
people would always give me crap for it. They're like, hey, Jeffrey.
King of Chino Hills over here, the water polo Lonzo Ball.
It was literally called the Chino Champion.
Oh my God.
The Chino Champion. It was the local newspaper, but it was just funny because I'm like, I would see him on the pool deck and I would hide from him. I'm like, oh man, he's back here. He can put me back on the damn newspaper. It's going to be so weird. Because that like after the 3rd time, people were just like, hey, saw you on the newspaper again.
Stop following me.
They were haters, bro, from his water polo fame.
Excuse me, but I saved a life.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
What have you done? What have you done, Karen?
So you're still doing at least 1,000 yards a day?
I wish.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when the pandemic hit, basically shut down every pool in America.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
I think pools just started opening up like 2
you
months
get
ago.
one of those infinity pools in your yard?
Right? And I hate running. I mean, I've always hated it. So
Do you ever think of those? Like,
those are
consider
great,
them
dude.
sometimes?
Have you ever used one?
I never used one.
Oh, they're great.
I don't mean like an infinity edge pool, like the cool
No,
ones.
no,
I
no,
mean
the
those
ones where you
stupid ones
swim.
that like a tub.
Yeah.
And they like blow
It
jets
blows-
at you.
Yeah,
It blows water.
Yeah, you get
They had they had one of those on a cruise we went on.
Oh yeah.
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 Those are cool.
Dude, swimming's a great exercise, man.
Oh yeah.
Low impact.
Do it
Yeah, I
right.
was dancing with the idea of trying to do like a sprint triathlon this one time, and swimming is the hardest part of that whole thing, dude.
Hell yeah.
Especially if you get on like the ocean currents and stuff like that, ocean swims.
Oh,
Man, those are
fuck
fucking.
that, dude.
Or we'll work the lifeguard tryouts. They'll have them
in the pools
down in Dockwater.
Yeah.
No, in the ocean.
Oh,
So
yeah,
you run out and you got to swim out to a buoy, and then it's however many yards up the shore and then back in. And it'll be a huge group of 50, 60 people out there swimming, doing the swim. And the tail end of that group that comes in, dude, looks like they are about to die.
Oh,
and we're there standing by, LA City paramedic rescue. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm like following, are you okay?
Yeah. I was actually a lifeguard for Huntington Beach for a season. And I mean, I had done pool lifeguarding. I had been a water polo player. So this one year I was like probably about a year out of high school. I wasn't even 21 yet.
Yeah.
So I decided, you know what? I want to be a lifeguard at the beach. I've always wanted to do it. I'm going to do it. I started training for it. I was swimming like close to like 10,000 yards a week. Like I was doing a lot of training, and I would go to the beach once a week to do like current training. And I showed up like with like 3 months worth of training ready to do this lifeguard tryout. And it was my very first one, Huntington Beach. And the tryout is you have to swim around the pier.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you start on one end of the pier, you swim around the pier,
Come back
and then you
in,
have to sprint in. And then they had another one that was you swim halfway through the pier, come back, and you sprint down like 2 lifeguard towers. And then they time you, average it all out, and then they give you the top 10. Yeah. So I show up like, okay, like I've been training for 3 months. Like I'm ready. Like even if I don't get it, I know that I'm not going to drown. I'm going to, at least I try it out. So I'm standing there and they make you write like your number on your arm. And this guy next to me, he's like talking to me like, and I'm like, I'm just trying to stretch, but whatever. What's up, man? He's like, oh, like, are you super excited for this? I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be cool. Like, he's like, I was like, did you train? I was like, yeah, I've been doing some training. I was like, what about you? He's like, yeah, like this last week I swam like 3 laps a day. And I was like, like 3 laps what? Like 3 laps in your pool? He's like, yeah, 3 laps in my pool. Every day for a week.
Some people have no idea, dude.
Every day for a week. I was
you gotta want it. You gotta want it.
I was like, you know what? Good for you, man. And so we get to the first event and I'm swimming, and as I'm running in, I get to the top or to the back after the pier swim, and I look over and they have him on the freaking jet ski being rescued.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
that's
dude.
no joke, man.
Yeah.
It's no
you
joke.
don't mess around with those.
We are running out of time. I noticed on your phone you have an Insomniac sticker.
Oh yeah, that's
talk about that for a little bit here.
My new venture is been getting into event medical for a hot minute now.
I thought you were a DJ.
Yeah.
Right.
No. That's been my new started doing events with the company. Well, I started when I was on the ambulance. I did a transport for a rave out in San Bernardino. And
those can get crazy, man.
Hardfest?
No, that one was Wonderland.
Wonderland. Oh, yeah, because it's Insomniac. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So
Mass Event Center.
I did transport for them. I would volunteer to do all like the raves, and then I met the medical team that was actually working there, that actual staff that does it. And it's a good group of people, man. Real group of people. They are focused in on event medical. They don't do anything else. They don't. This isn't their side gig. Like they make sure that what they do is they do it well.
That lady's smart, man. She found a niche. There was a market for it, and she did her thing. You'll get to do that as a mat guy now too, because you started with us during the pandemic. There's obviously no events. But that's one of the side perks of being a mat guy is any large festivals or even some concerts that they have. I think it's over 10,000 people attending. They're supposed to have a medical command and a MAC person there.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So I got to do like Camp Flog Gnaw, the Made in America tour with Kanye. Like Weezer. That was cool.
Don't hide it. You did Pride too. You did Pride.
Huh? Yeah, I did Pride. I did Pride.
No, that because the company that I work for does Pride.
Yeah, and West Hollywood.
Yeah.
They do Halloween. The West Hollywood Halloween.
Yeah, they do the medical for
That's
that.
crazy.
Yeah, those
too.
are wild. But yeah, it's cool. It's interesting.
Yeah, man.
Fun perk. So you'll get some of that some of that action too.
Sweet.
Thanks for coming on, dude.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Cool story, man. Appreciate you.
Very much
Where
appreciate
can they
it.
follow you?
Oh.
Or do you want to plug anything, dude? Do you even want your social media out there, bro?
I'm good. I don't really do
Right.
the social
If you
media.
want, dude.
I don't really do the social media thing.
Perfect. You can find me at Danny Gonzo34 on Instagram and Twitter.
Follow me at Ben9Humor, Ben9Humor, like Benign Humor on Instagram and Twitter. Follow the show at PRC Pod on Instagram and Twitter, or PRC Podcast on TikTok. It's growing every day, you guys. We're not BSing you there. Email us, contact prcpod@gmail.com. We have shirts, we have stickers, we got merch.
Check out the shirts at firefightercrafted.com. Follow them on Instagram. We'll be posting all the centigrade drops on there, and that's where you'll be able to find those shirts. What else?
Sure can. And there have been a few listeners that have actually come to shows, like people that live in LA and want to, so don't be scared to DM. If you do want to see some comedy, you know what I mean? Every Friday night in Hollywood, holler at your boy. We get good reviews.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey. All right. Hey. Yeah, I mean.
So we about to take off.
Hey. Please do remain calm. About to run the game, spitting with a little bit of soul, no times.